is Stephanie of Stephanie Stitches. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you're new, thank you so much for coming by. I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'd be notified when I put up new videos, whether they're live or recorded. It doesn't cost you anything, but it sure helps me out a lot. Today we're here to sew the third and final week of the Sew This Is Love Valentine Mystery Quilt from Fort Worth Fabric Studio. As you can see, I've got the blocks from the previous weeks on the wall behind me, and this week we are sewing them in 2 rows, and I've sewn the top and bottom row together already. A lot of you have been posting pictures on the Facebook group, which is amazing. If you haven't found the Facebook group yet, I will put the link to it below in the description box. Come on over and join and post pictures of your project, your progress. A lot of you have already figured out the layout, which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome that you guys already sleuthed it out a little bit. So I went ahead and sewed the top and bottom row together just to save time. But if you look, there's a space right in the middle. Right there. Right there. And so we need to make one more block. So today we're making the center block, which is a star block. I'm super excited about that because I love stars. So I have my fabrics all laid out here in front of me, and I'm ready to get going. So what I want to do is, like I've done previous weeks, I'm going to change the angle of the camera. So I'm going to stop the video for a minute, change the angle so you guys can see what I'm working on. You can watch me sew it, and then at the end we'll come back together again as usual, and I will talk to you at the end a little bit about how I'm going to quilt this, and tell you what I'm going to do, maybe give you some suggestions, and talk about future plans. Alright, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so here's all my pieces laid out for this week. I've got the A fabrics. There's 4 squares, 3-inch squares, and I've got the rectangles, and then we've got 8 of the white with the X's and O's. We've got 2 of the small hearts and 2 of the toss hearts. So to make the star block, we need to make 4 sets of flying geese, and then we need to make the center piece, which sometimes if you make a star block like this, you'll have 1 square in the center. But this is really cute. I love the way they did this. They made it like a patchwork. So we're going to use both of these reds and make a 4-piece patchwork for the center. So it's going to be real cute. So I want to start off with the flying geese, and we're going to make, like I said, 4 of those. So what I'm going to do is put one of these on each corner and then pin it. Now if you're a beginner, I recommend that you draw a line from the top corner to the bottom corner. I have diagonal seam tape on my machine. I've mentioned this before. Fort Worth Fabric Studio does sell this. It's by Cluck Cluck Sew. I'm going to just follow the line on my diagonal seam tape, but if you're a beginner, I would recommend definitely drawing the line because it does make it a bit easier. I would use, I like to use, when I'm drawing lines, friction pens. They disappear with heat, and there is some debate whether the lines can come back or not, but you're drawing on the back of your fabric, so you're not going to see it even if it does. I've never had friction pen come back, and I live in a place that gets cold, and once you wash your project, it typically won't ever come back again. That's just until you wash your project. So I've never had that problem though. I do apologize. I'm going to probably clear my throat a few times. I know that doesn't sound the best. I'm still getting over a little bug that I had. My throat still gets a little bit junky, so I apologize for that. Not the best thing, but the video is due and I wanted to finish this up with you guys on time, so we'll just deal with it. Okay, so I'm going to sew all of these from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. We're going to do all these first, and then we'll trim them, iron them, and do the other side of the flying geese. So I'm going to take the pin out of all these. I am going to trim these. You can do this with scissors if you're confident, or get your rotary cutter and a ruler and trim 1/4 inch to the outside. So this piece that's up against the black here, that's the inside. To the outside, trim 1/4 inch away from that line that you just sewed. So you should end up with something that looks like this after you've trimmed it. So see, there's no fabric over here anymore. So we're going to do that to all 4 pieces. These are called flying geese. Flying geese are one of the basic blocks in quilting, so I'm kind of glad that we're doing this since there's a lot of beginners watching. And they make up a lot of star blocks. They can stand on their own. Okay, so now I've trimmed all those, so I'm going to use my pressing pen, put a little solution on, and get those to go where I want them, and then I'm going to iron them all. And then we'll add the square for the other side. Now some folks, when they make these, they like to iron them first before they trim them. You can do that if you like. Whatever makes the most sense to you. Just make sure if you do that, that you bend the fabric back before you trim it. You don't want to cut off that fabric that you just sewed on. So that's why I like to trim first. It just works better for my brain. Okay, got those on. I'm going to do the same thing I just did, except on the other side. So I'm going to take my fabric, lay it on the opposite corner, and this time we're going to sew from this corner to this corner. Or, I'm sorry, from this corner to this corner. I just told you the wrong thing. Strike that, reverse it. So we're going to sew from that corner towards the inside. So this fabric is going to overlap the one that you already put on here, and that's why we need to trim and iron this piece first so this one can go on top. pin one more and then we'll sew these. There we go. Okay, now we're all ready to sew these. Again, we're going to sew from the top right hand corner to the bottom left, which is overlapping your piece that you already sewed on. So that's correct, it should overlap. Okay, so I'm going to pull the pins out. Put those away. And I did chain piece them, so they're all stuck together, but they just clip apart really quickly. I just find it a little bit quicker. Really not a lot in this case because there's not that many that we're doing. But if you were doing a whole quilt with these kind of stars, it'd be a lot quicker to chain piece everything. Okay, so those are all sewn. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the ruler and the rotary cutter, and we're going to cut those, again, 1/4 inch to the outside. So lift your piece, and your piece should look like this triangle and the two white. So don't trim this piece, trim this piece. So you should have a piece that looks like that before we've pressed it. This is gonna be so cute. I love stars. They're like my favorite blocks, any kind of stars. Okay, put this aside. I'm going to put my pressing solution on here again. This is just a starch alternative in this pen, and similar to Best Press. I just like how it works. If you put it on the seam, it almost kind of pre-presses your fabric. You just finger press and it puts it where you want it, and then when I go to iron it, it makes my blocks really, really flat. So I just really like this product. It's one of my favorite products, one of my favorite notions. Okay, I'm going to press this. One flying geese. Two flying geese. Three flying geese. And 4. Perfect. Okay, so there's our star legs. These are going to end up being, we'll start to set out our block already actually. So these are going to end up being the legs of the star. Just like that. These are the corner squares. Okay, so that's the beginning of our star. and let's make our center. So our center is a cute little patchwork. This is just a 4 patch. So what I'm going to start by doing is just sewing one of each kind together. So those together, those two together. Very cute. Now I'm going to press these, but in opposite directions. So I want to press this one towards the little bitty hearts. So I'm going to go to the left. In the bottom one, I'm also going to press it towards the little hearts. So it's going to look like they're going the same way, but we're going to end up flipping it around like that. So we're pressing them actually the same direction. We're pressing them both towards the small little hearts. So they're both pressed towards the little heart, but we're going to turn the bottom one around. So you have the same colors on opposite sides, and because you pressed them both towards the small hearts, that one is going to the left, the bottom one's going to the right. So when we put them on top of each other, they're going to fit together really nicely right in the center there. You can feel with your fingers the seams come together, and they fit kind of together nicely like a puzzle. And that's called nesting your seams. So perfect. All right, so I'm just going to sew those together. And if you open it up, you should meet right in the middle, which I do, and have this cute little 4 patch. So this is a little bit bulky, so I'm actually going to, I'm going to iron this open. So I'm going to just press it open a little bit with my finger. Put some of this pressing solution on there, and then iron it. Anytime you have a bunch of seams come together in the center like that, it can get a little bit bulky. So I don't press open too often, but when I have something like that, I do. Okay, so that's done. So you're going to put that patch right in the center, and that's going to make our cute little star block. So now I'm just going to pick these up. Let me put all this cutting stuff away so I don't cut myself. So now I'm just going to pick these up one row at a time. So I'm going to start with the top up here. I'm going to sew them in 3 sections like this. So the center, the top, and the bottom. So because there's white on these, I'm going to press the top and the bottom out towards the black, and then when I do the middle row, I'm going to press in towards the red. So again, just like we did when we nested these seams, they'll nest very nicely, the rows. So let's start by sewing the top row together. I'm going to sew all the rows together before I start pressing. Just makes it easier than going kind of back and forth between sewing and pressing. Okay, so that row is done. Now it probably looks a little janky because it hasn't been ironed yet, but like I said, I'm going to iron all these when I'm done. The nice thing about solids like this, especially black can be hard to see to sew on, but you don't have to find the right or wrong side of the fabric, because particularly with black solid, it looks the same on either side, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the bottom row. Now I'm going to do the center row. Now on the top and bottom row, you don't have to be as careful with the direction of the flying geese, because if you sew it like that way, all you have to do is flip it around. But the center row, make sure you definitely like have your the white with the XO or whatever fabric you're using at home that's going to form the star legs in towards the center, because if you turn it this way, you're going to have a kind of funky looking star block. You're not going to have any legs. It's going to have wings instead, like wings from the goose. Okay. Now you may want to pin these together as you're sewing. I'm not. I'm just taking the chance. Some people like to pin right there. Mine matched up pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with that. The really nice thing about this project is, for all of you quilters who've been quilting for a long time, you know how sometimes it's hard to match up points and seams. This doesn't have but just a few seams that we've had to match along the way, so it's been a pretty nice and easy project from that standpoint. Okay. So those rows are all done. Now I'm going to iron these. So I want to iron the top and the bottom. Like I said, I'm going to iron out away from the white fabric. If you iron towards the white fabric, there's a possibility you can see the black through the white. Now if you want to do it your way, that's fine. If you want to press open, you can do that too. I don't think this part needs to be open because they're not that bulky. And then this one I'm going to press in towards the red, because again, I don't want the red to show through the white. High contrast fabrics like that, I prefer to press them away from the light color. Because a lot of times, even if you can't see it now, once you've got it quilted, you'll be able to see it. So, okay. I put the pressing solution on, so I'm going to bring my iron over here. Press these. The direction I want them to go. This is so cute. Are y'all excited? I am. I can't wait for the whole top to be done. Okay. Now. I really like the look of this patchwork center. This is real cute. Okay. Alright, those are ironed. So now I'm going to iron the rows together. So, since I ironed the top, out and the center in, these should nest really well. And I am going to pin these just so they end up in the right spot. Right where that meets and right where this one meets. And they are nesting up just like they should, which is good because that makes it easier. Okay, I'm going to sew that one on. Remove the pins. Let's take a peek. Yes, so that looks good. Now we're going to add the bottom row here. Do the same thing, nest up the seams. Okay. And sew this one on. Awesome. So we've got a star block. Yay, I love stars. So cute. Okay, so now I'm going to iron this guy. I'm trying to see if it's going to be bulky. I think it'll be okay to iron it. I'm going to iron them out towards the top and towards the bottom. And we'll see after I iron it if it's bulky, but I think it's going to be fine. If you guys don't know, I'm a long arm quilter, so I think about bulk a lot when I'm quilting or when I'm piecing, because if you get a lot of bumpy, bulky spots, the thread can break there, or the needle can break if it's really bulky. So I always have that in mind when I'm piecing something. So that's why I talk about that a lot. No, this one's not too bulky. You can press it out if you like. I'm pressing it out so this black fabric goes away from the white right here. Okay. That's looking pretty good. All right. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab these pieces off my wall and we're going to add these to either side of this star block. Now when you put these blocks together in your rows, the really nice thing about this project, like I was saying earlier, is there's no seams to match up. You literally just lay one on top of the other and sew it together. So thank you, Fort Worth Fabric Studio, for making that easy. Okay, that's one. I'm going to put the last one on the other side of this. So we've got that row together. Now these rows behind me, I ironed them to the left. So, or actually from the left to the right. So I'm going to iron this center row from the right to the left. So that way I can nest them together when we're putting the rows together. So I'm going to grab my iron. Oh, this is cute, cute, cute. I love this star right in the center. Okay, that one. All right, so he's ironed. So now I'm just gonna grab my other rows one at a time. I'm gonna keep them in order, and we're gonna sew these together. So now I'm gonna take this top row, flip it on the middle row, and I am gonna pin in the two spots where it needs to nest. These chain blocks that we made are really cute. This is going to be really adorable when it's done. How they come together. Okay. I'm going to start down here at this end. Attach these rows. We are almost there. I'm going to take those pins out. Let's see what we got. Did we match them up right? Yes. Awesome. So this is what I really like about this, like right here. These are so cute because they're right next to each other. If you nest them right and they don't overlap, you have one big chain going, or I guess it's going this way. One big chain going across. I love it. Oh, so cute. All right, last row. Gonna add this to the bottom here. Do the same thing I just did. I'm gonna nest those seams right where those little blocks come together. It's the only place you really need to pin, unless you feel comfortable pinning across the whole thing, which you're welcome to do. Making sure those nest. Okay. Now, sewing the black fabric together can be tricky. It's a little bit hard to see the edges of your fabric. So slow down if you need to. Let's see. Let's open that up. Yep, they matched up perfectly. Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So here's the top. Now, we have one last thing we have to do. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. It looks even better on the camera with the star right in the middle. Oh, I just love it. Okay, so the last thing we have to do is put our border strips on. So you should have all these cut already. We cut these the first week. We cut 2.5 inch, I think they're 2.5 inches. Let me look at the instructions really quick so I don't tell you guys the wrong thing. 2.5 inches by width of fabric, yeah. So these are 2.5 inches by width of fabric. And so obviously this top is not width of fabric, which width of fabric is typically 40, anywhere from 40 inches to 44, depending on what kind of, what fabric you're using. So they're going to be longer. So I'm going to start and do the left border and the right border first. And what I'm going to do is find, oops, you know what, one thing we have to do is iron this. I forgot to iron. So I'm going to press towards the top and towards the bottom. Gotta iron these out so these borders go on correctly. I'm just gonna press the fabric that's near the edge for now because it is getting big and my big iron is across the room. And so when I go to, before I actually quilt this, I'll iron the entire top to make sure the whole thing is laying flat. But for now, since I'm right here in front of you guys, I'm just gonna iron the edges so they're going flat to be able to put the borders on. Okay. difficult to do the whole top with this little iron. Okay, so now we can start. So what I typically do for my borders, so I don't get wavy borders or something funky going on, which is easy to do, I find the center of my strip, which you can still see it if, you know, your fabric was folded. Even though I ironed it, I can still see where that center was folded. And I'm going to pin right there in the center. Okay, so I'm going to pin this all the way down to the left and all the way down to the right, since our strips aren't the exact measurement for the finished project. This helps from getting wavy borders, which can be a problem when you quilt it. We want our finish to be looking as nice as possible, so definitely gonna pin this all the way down here. Okay, so we're gonna have an excess several inches on each end, looks like. That's okay. We'll cut that off later. Okay, so I'm going to sew this side on first, because if I could pin both sides at the same time, and you guys are welcome to do that if you want, but I have found when I do that, that I tend to stick myself with the pins that are on the other side. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this side. Now my borders, there's debate whether to backstitch or not in quilting. I typically don't backstitch when I piece, but when I do borders I do, because as a long arm quilter, that's where I see people's quilts come apart the most, is at the borders, because maybe the last couple stitches that they took aren't super strong stitches, maybe their stitch length was longer, so they come apart there. So I always backstitch my borders. I'm back stitching. Then I'm gonna pull these pins out. And I'm gonna grab my rotary cutter and my little ruler again. And I'm going to flip this whole thing over. Now, you might have a different way of doing this, but this is how I do it. So I'm going to put my ruler right on that stitch line that I just made and make a square between those stitches and then where the side of my project is here. And I'm going to trim that excess right off. So my edge should be fairly square, which it looks pretty darn square. So I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Putting a line right on my stitches. Lining this part of the ruler, this side of the ruler, up with the side of my project. Remember to measure twice and cut once. I always take my time with this because once you cut it, you've cut it. There we go. Nice and square. So now we've got, you can see, a pretty well squared border. Okay, so we're going to do the other side. I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to find the center, which I can still see the center, and I'm actually going to iron that because it's a little bit wrinkly, which could cause a problem later. And even though I'm ironing it, I'll still be able to see where it was folded. It would help if I put the project the right way. So I'm going to find that center again and lay that right here, which is the center of my project. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side and pin both ways. Now I am smoothing this out. I am not stretching it though. Don't stretch your fabric. I'm going to repin that. I don't like the way that's coming out. I'm going to put an extra. Okay. Okay, and so this guy. all the pins out of this. Now we've got our sides on, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did the last time around and square off my corners. And then I'm going to do the top and bottom borders, but I'm going to stop the video after I square these off because it's the same process and the video is already long and you guys are probably not going to want to sit here and watch me do 2 more borders. So so there's that one, and I gotta do the other one. Again, line that up on your stitches, line the ruler up with the edge of your project. There we go. Alright, so that's our left and right border. I still have to do the top and the bottom, so I'm going to stop the video and I am going to do those, and then I will come back and show you the whole thing finished, and then we'll talk about what's next. Okay, so as you can see here behind me, I have the whole top done. I finished the top and bottom borders. I pressed everything. I'm super excited and happy with how this came out. It's nice and flat. Everything's nice and even. The camera is making it look like there's a wave in the top, but there's not. It's just the way the camera is, but it's perfectly square. I just love it, and I hope you guys do too. I hope you enjoyed sewing this project with me. I know this video got a little bit long, so I wanted to talk about now what's next. So what's next is we need to quilt this. So if you don't have a long arm machine, which I do, so I'm going to put this on the long arm, because one of my favorite things is hearts. I absolutely love heart patterns, and I am not very good at free motioning hearts on my domestic machine. So I'm going to put this on the long arm and put some hearts on it, and I'm super excited about that. I'm going to take some video showing you how I quilt it, and I'm also going to come back and bind it and video myself binding. So if you want to come back and watch that, that will be up probably a little bit later today, but I wanted to tell you that's what I was going to do. Now if you're going to quilt this on your domestic, I think it would be either really cute if you just echo around all the blocks, the shapes, or you could do a crosshatch across the whole thing. And a crosshatch is when you sew diagonally from one way, like all the way across, every couple inches apart, and then do it the other way, so you get like diamonds all the way across. I think diamonds will look really cute too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and Fort Worth Fabric Studio is going to have another sew along very shortly. They haven't announced anything yet as of the end of this project, so I can't tell you anything yet, but look for that announcement coming soon. As soon as they give me the green light, I will make you a video so you'll know what we're going to be doing, and they'll have a kit like always and the free patterns like always, and we'll start to sew that together in a few weeks. So look for that announcement coming soon. And like I said, I'm going to make another video quilting this and binding it, so if you want to see how I quilt it, or if you want to bind along with me, that would be great. Come on back. And if you are not subscribed, if you hit that subscribe button and if you hit that bell next to the subscribe button, you'll know when my video pops up, so you can come and take a peek. Thank you guys so much for sewing along with me. Thank you, Fort Worth, for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.